Hey sports fan, I recently finished Iron Gold by Pierce Brown and I just have to talk about it. Iron Gold is the fourth book in the Red Rising series. In the first series, we have Red Rising, Golden Sun, and Morning Star, and then there is a 10-year jump where we get Iron Gold, Dark Age, Lightbringer, and hopefully Red God sometime this year. Keep your eyes peeled. Iron Gold picks up 10 years after Morningstar, and it turns out Darrow and the gang have been at war for a decade, just trying to really solidify the Republic, trying to still liberate other colors, get people to fall in line, broker peace. It's kind of a hot mess. Everyone is doing their best, but things are not great. Things are not as great as we wanted them to be at the end of Morningstar. Immediately upon starting Iron Gold, I knew that this was going to be one of my favorite kind of themes of the book, which is that things are not as great as we thought they were going to be. At the end of Morningstar, everything looks bright. It's like the sun is coming up and everything is going to be okay. It's Darrow on the beach with his mom and Virginia and his son. We look at it and we see the future, and this is it. The future is bright. It's going to be positive. We've liberated all of these colors. Things are going to be amazing. And then we get to Iron Gold, and it has been a decade of war, and things are not amazing, and Darrow has not found peace. If you know me, I don't really annotate my books, but there is a very short little part in the very, very beginning that really sets the tone for the entire book. In it, Darrow is talking about their ships, but really he's talking about himself. And I'd like to read that to you if you'll bear with me. The Lion Sovereign said the white was for spring, for a new beginning. But the ships are stained, smeared with char and patched wounds and mismatched panels. They broke the Sword Armada and the Martyr Fabii. They conquered the heart of the Gold Empire. They battled back the Ashlord to the core and have kept the Dragons of the Rim at bay. How could they ever stay clean? It's perfect. It's so perfect for Darrow, his mindset, where he's at, and what he's been through. It's such a small little tidbit at the very beginning of the book, but it really sets the tone and the theme for Darrow's entire journey throughout Iron Gold. In that very simple little passage, how could they ever stay clean? We really get into Darrow's head. We're going to get a lot of Darrow's internal monologue regardless, but it's so simple and so meaningful that I had to mark it down. Like I said, if you know me, I really don't annotate my books. It just struck me as very meaningful. When we rejoin Darrow, he is just tired. He has been fighting this war for his wife, who is the sovereign now. He's been fighting this war for 10 long years. He's been spearheading every battle. He's lost innumerable soldiers and friends just trying to end this war so that he can go be a father and a husband, so that he can finally rest and live in peace. But as the book goes on, we start to understand through Darrow's actions and the perspective of the people around him that he might say he wants peace, but it doesn't seem like he actually wants peace. We really see how the war has changed him, how he has really gone from a young man who wanted a better world and wanted to trust everyone to a hardened soldier. There's actually a second passage I annotated, and it is also very close to the beginning of this book. And I think that it really encompasses Darrow's arc through this book. It sort of tells us exactly where he's going to end. If you can tolerate my reading, I'd like to read it to you. Sometimes I fear that this war is killing that boy inside. I ache to remember him, his raw, pure heart, to forget this city moon, this solar war, and return to the bosom of the planet that gave birth to me before the boy inside is dead forever, before my son loses the chance to ever know him. But the worlds, it seems, have plans of their own. I think that Darrow's internal monologue is telling us a lot more about him and where he's going, his trajectory, because he says that he wants to preserve the young man inside of him, that he wants to protect this young man, this raw, pure heart from being destroyed. But he doesn't stop. He does not stop what he's doing. Even when given the opportunity, when given the choice, he doesn't stop. I read the Red Rising series back when it was coming out, so I was quite a bit younger when I read it. And now, at my current age, I am kind of glad that I waited to pick it up. Like, I'm annoyed at myself for waiting so long to pick up the second series, but I'm also kind of glad because I have the perspective of being a little bit older and having a child of my own, so I can really identify with Darrow and his struggles as a father. He wants to build the perfect world for his son, but in trying to build the perfect world for his child, he's not being a father to his child. And if you have kids, you might be familiar with that feeling. I think that Darrow has reached a point where war is all he knows. This is all he knows to do. He's accused of being in love with his own myth, or believing his own myth, or believing himself an insurmountable god. But I don't think that's the truth. I think that Darrow kind of hates himself. He sees himself as one thing, a warmonger. It's all he knows. It's all he's good at. He feels that he has already failed as a son, a husband, and a father, and going to war is all that he can do. So he does. We also get some new perspectives in this book, and I love that. We get Ephraim, who is a middle-aged gray. He left his job as an auditor to join the war effort when something terrible happened to him. Now that the war is over, he's turned to a life of crime. He deadens his feelings so that he doesn't really have to think about things that make him feel bad anymore. He just smokes because it feels good. He drinks because it feels good. He steals things because it feels good to some amount. He doesn't want to feel any of his grief or loss or self-hatred, so he just engages in this hedonistic lifestyle. Part of Ephraim's story is a heist, and it is interesting to read because it's a heist that he doesn't really want to take on. I suspected what he was going to be stealing, but it's not confirmed until further into the story. So that was kind of fun to have those little breadcrumbs spread out for us. As the reader, you have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen, but you're not positive until it happens. Ephraim, to me, was not particularly likable. I don't think he's supposed to be, because he is a man who has so much self-hatred and fear that he refuses to face his own feelings. You have to face your feelings, whether it's hate or anger or grief. Like, you have to face those, or else you're just like half of a person. And that's sort of what Ephraim is, half of a person. We also get introduced to Lyria in this book. She is a teenage Red who lived in the mines, and she was liberated by the Republic. And now she lives in a refugee camp with her family, which consists of her father, who is kind of catatonic, her sister, and her sister's like 4 children. Lyria feels very responsible for her family. She does have a lot of disdain and kind of hate for the Republic and the Sovereign for pulling the Reds up out of the mines and then just kind of abandoning them to these refugee camps where there's crime and violence and not enough food to go around and no good work to be done. In a big way, Lyria misses the life that she had before being liberated. It's an interesting perspective because Lyria had a life before. When she was a slave, she had a life with a family and a home, and she had a perceived future. And now that she's been liberated, she doesn't see a life for herself or her siblings or her nieces and nephews. She only sees the mud. Lyria's experiences are so traumatic but also very interesting because it's a very different perspective. When Darrow escaped, he became a hero. He became a god. But every other Red who escaped just became a person with nowhere to go and nothing to do. And they're still looked down on by everybody else. They're still ostracized from society. And for the most part, the Golds still think that they're better than everybody else. So getting Lyria's perspective in this story was really, really interesting, and I really enjoyed that aspect of this book. Another new perspective that we get is Lysander, and he is a young man now. He's not a child anymore. He's been kind of not on the run, but living on the edge of society with Cassius as his protector. We get the relationship between Cassius and Lysander. It's very strained, it's very complicated. They love each other, but they also hold a lot against each other. It's a very complicated relationship, and I love the way that Pierce Brown writes these relationships, that he is open to the concept of complicated friendships, complicated families. The themes of brotherhood and covenant is written so beautifully. Pierce Brown seems to have a really good understanding of these really complicated feelings of truly loving someone, but also having immense disdain for them and their choices. Cassius is a man broken. He is confused. He was confused all through the Red Rising series, and all you want to see is Cassius just kind of get a win, because nothing has been good for him. Nothing has been easy. It seems like he can't make the right choices, or when he thinks he's making the right choice, he immediately questions himself and regrets it. Cassius is just plagued by doubt at every turn. It really does rub off on Lysander, because Lysander, being raised as royalty, he is very secure in himself in a lot of ways. He thinks he's always right because he was raised to believe that he's always right, that he is more educated than anybody else, that he's more capable than anybody else, that because he is born to royalty, he should just be trusted to rule. Lysander is an interesting character who I feel like I'm going to grow to hate in the subsequent books, but right now I just want him to do the right thing. Lysander kind of reminds me of Veritas from The Faithful and the Fallen, not in that their characters are very similar at all, but they make me feel the same way, where I want to love them and I want them to make the right choices, but I fear that they are heading down the wrong path. So much happens in Iron Gold, and I don't want to spoil it because I truly, truly think that most people who enjoy fantasy or science fantasy will enjoy this series. It is devastating and it is very sad, but it is beautifully written. It's such a fantastic story. The characters are so lovable. I just want people to read it. I gave Iron Gold 5 stars because I thought it was amazing. I cannot wait to jump into Dark Age and Lightbringer and hopefully finish those before Red God comes out this summer. Fingers crossed. I absolutely can't wait. I'm so hyped up. Pierce Brown is a fantastic author. I think that he writes male friendships beautifully. There's this love and this sense of brotherhood among the male friends, even when it's very complicated, like Lysander and Cassius. I think that Pierce Brown has really lovely prose. I wouldn't say that it's flowery, but it is very emotionally evocative. You cannot read these books without feeling a swell of emotion in your chest. That has been my chat about Iron Gold. I strongly, strongly recommend that if you haven't picked up Red Rising, that you at least give it a chance. It's so good. I know that the first book, now in perspective, might seem a little bit youthful, but if you give it a chance, it will really grab you and it won't let go. I would love to know other people's thoughts on Red Rising and particularly Iron Gold. Do you have different opinions? Do you have characters that you really loved or really hated? How did you feel about these split perspectives? Thanks for hanging out and chatting about Iron Gold with me.